I've been seeing a lot of videos talking about this Devin Haney and Tank Davis back and forth on social media. And I've been seeing also a lot of people making fantasy matchups or talking fantasy matchups of who will win between both of these guys and whatnot. So I just want to give my opinion on this. And I'm going to be as neutral as possible. So I do like both fighters. Not really a huge fan of any of them, but I do like watching them. But I will say this. I noticed there are a lot more Tank Davis fans that be talking more about fantasy matchups compared to Devin Haney fans. And what's so crazy is that I see like these YouTubers, right? They big time Tank Davis fans, and I'm gonna tell you why they big time Tank Davis fans. They only favor Tank Davis or pump him up as high as he can for one reason. It's because he is with Floyd Mayweather, their idol. Now, you know, of course, Floyd Mayweather was one of my favorite boxers of all time. But at the end of the day, I'm a grown-ass man. I ain't gonna dick ride for nobody. So these YouTubers, they go around and they say, hey, Devin Haney got a chinny chin or whatever. You know, all this shit because he got rocked by Jorge Linares, right? And they said, well, Tank got the superpower. But this is what I gotta say though. Tank got superpower against whom? Who does he have superpower against? Since he got all of that power. And I think Devin Haney was right on one thing. Everybody that the best win on his resume to this day is Jose Pedraza. Not even Leo Santa Cruz is better than Jose Pedraza. Even though Leo Santa Cruz is more marketable than Jose Pedraza, I just don't think he's a better fighter than Jose Pedraza. Now, I also notice about Tank fans that be making these videos, right? Because they try to argue both sides of the fence. So, one minute they say Lomachenko was ducking Devin Haney, or they call him Loma Chicken or whatever. He was ducking Devin Haney, which I totally disagree with. But we're going to run with this narrative, right? So Lomachenko was ducking Devin Haney because he didn't want to fight Devin Haney as a mandatory. Even though Devin Haney had just recently become the mandatory right before the fight with Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez was announced. Now, I'm going to kill this argument right here. So they said, well, he became the franchise champion because he didn't want to fight Devin Haney. Okay, so when it's anybody else, when we talk about this Crawford and Spence, right? The first argument that they use is that Crawford is on the wrong side of the street, just because Errol Spence said the same thing. See, they use that Crawford is on the other side of the street. Or another argument that they use is unifications trump mandatory. So Lomachenko, who was fighting Teofimo Lopez for a unification bout, you mean to tell me that can't trump the mandatory that Devin Haney has become at that time, right? But when it comes to everybody else that you like, it's unification trumps mandatory. So that's what I mean by arguing both sides of the fence. Now, I'm going to stick with this. Loma was ducking Devin Haney, since we're going to run with that. So if Loma was ducking Devin Haney, what was Gervonta Davis doing when it came to Loma? But because we know for years, Loma been trying to make that fight with Gervonta Tank Davis. And all these years, Gervonta never responded. He had Floyd Mayweather basically, you know, block the fight, coming out, say, hey, don't ask me about Lomachenko. Or Lomachenko, even though he doesn't have that many fights as a professional, he's a professional anyway, just for the simple fact of the matter, he has a whole bunch of amateur fights. So we do know that. But nobody or these Tank Davis fans are going to say Tank Davis was ducking Vasily Lomachenko. They won't do it. But they quick to say Vasily Lomachenko was ducking Devin Haney. So that's another thing that they arguing both sides of the fence. So now, let's get back to this Tank Davis and the Devin Haney. So you have people making videos talking about the common opponent, which was Yuriorkis Gamboa. How Tank knocked out Yuriorkis Gamboa and Devin Haney couldn't knock him out. And they saying because of the power that Tank has, that means he's the better fighter. Now I'm going to say this. Power doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win fights. It's just not. Because if that was the case, the greatest of all time will be the most hardest puncher ever. But we know that's not true. Even if you want to go back and forth between Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson as the greatest of all time, none of them were known for being a vicious puncher, like to the point that we don't want to fight that guy because we know he's going to knock you out. See, with those guys, it takes skills. Now, both of those guys had a lot of knockouts, but they weren't like the one punch, knockout king or whatever. They weren't those deadly punches. It was more about skills and accuracy and punching, being accurate when it comes to punching. So we know power doesn't win fights. Now, when Tank Davis fought Gamboa had tore his Achilles early on in the fight, after a few knockdowns and everything. He had tore his Achilles, and it wasn't all the way into the 11th round where Tank Davis finally got Gamboa out of there. But Gamboa wasn't really like that hurt to the point that you could say, oh, Tank's power. No. I mean, the referee just basically saved it at the end of the day, but Yuriorkis Gamboa would have went 12 rounds. He definitely would have won 12 rounds if you watched the fight. And this dude was doing it on a busted Achilles. Now, when Devin Haney fought Gamboa, of course, he couldn't get him out of there. Devin Haney is not known as a fighter who has a lot of power. So Devin Haney basically just outskilled him. Now, I know I hear people say Gamboa was an old man when Devin Haney fought him. But they tend to forget that Gamboa was an old man when Tank fought him. Do you see what I'm saying? So if we're going to compare old men to old men, and say who was old at the time, Gamboa was old for both of them. Gamboa was past his prime for both of them. So we got to stop with the bullshit. These narratives that y'all pushing. So they say, oh, okay, well, Tank will knock Devin out because he got rocked by Jorge Linares. Okay, name one fighter that never been rocked in their damn life. Being rocked by a fighter doesn't mean you has a weak chin. Now, when he got rocked by Jorge Linares, of course, that happened at the end of the round. But what was the end result? That's what y'all got to ask yourselves. What was the end result? Because Floyd Mayweather, he's been rocked multiple times in multiple fights. He's been rocked. And I can name two of them off the bat. He got rocked by Madonna, and he got rocked by Shane Mosley. So he's been rocked quite a few times. So when people make that excuse and they say, oh, because Devin Haney's been rocked, okay, Floyd Mayweather been rocked. Now, if we want to talk about Devin Haney, because I hear this argument that Devin Haney is trying to be like Floyd Mayweather and whatnot with the boxing skills, and he trying to say he's born and stuff. Okay, at the end of the day, it's a boxing match. Ain't nobody trying to come up here and be rock'em sock'em robot. Everybody got their own different type of styles, and you just have to roll the style. If Devin Haney style is considered boring to a lot of you, then just don't watch the man fight. Also, if there are boxers that complain about Devin Haney's style, then figure him out. Figure the man out. What, you can't beat that style that you gonna complain about it? Figure him out. Beat that man. But see, they won't. It's just a lot of complaining and shit going on and whatnot. So at the end of the day, when I hear people make these comparisons and they talk about what Devin Haney fans and all that other stuff, no, it's the Tank Davis fans. And I'm gonna tell you one thing, like I said at the beginning of the video, I like both fighters. I'm not a huge fight fan of both of them, but I do like both fighters. I like the sweet science, and I also like, you know, when somebody throwing the power and everything else too. I like all styles of fighting at the end of the day, because it's all about boxing. So with that being said, you watching Bold and Understanding. This is my video, and peace.